She had decorated her home with spooky items for this story and was decorating pumpkins to celebrate Halloween. Her 10-year-old daughter Chloe came up to her, gave her a hug, and kissed her on the cheek. "This is going to be so much fun. Why don't we host the party at our house this time instead of going to Uncle Michael's?" "That's a great idea. Halloween is the day after tomorrow, so there's still time for preparations." "Henry, what do you think, dear?" "Whatever you think is best, dear. Then bring more decorations, snacks, and drinks from the market. I'll prepare dinner at home. Make a list. Chloe and I will go shopping." Henry and Chloe went shopping at the market, which was fully decorated in the Halloween theme. People in Halloween costumes were wandering around the market. "I want a costume like that too." "Of course, dear. Since we're hosting the party, pick whichever costume you want." Chloe tried on different Halloween costumes in the market, but couldn't decide until her eyes fell on a black dress, a witch's costume. She chose that, and they bought plenty of scary masks for the party. The next day, everyone arrived at the party dressed in different spooky costumes and masks. Because of the masks, no one could recognize each other. In the dim lighting, eerie background music was playing. Chloe was dressed as a witch, Henry as a vampire, and Alice as a fairy queen. Everyone was enjoying the party. "Everyone, take off your masks and listen to me carefully. Why don't we make this party even more memorable? We've all come dressed as fake spirits. What if we invite a real one?" "What do you mean by invite a spirit?" "Yesterday I was searching online on how to make your Halloween party memorable, and I found a game where we can invite a spirit to our party. Can spirits really be summoned? Let's try it. If a spirit shows up, the party will be even scarier. If not, it'll just be a game. So what do you all say?" I've seen this in a web series too, where people summoned a real spirit and got answers to their questions. So the spirit will answer our questions? That sounds fun. But whose spirit will we summon? Everyone started suggesting names. Nearby, a strange-looking man, wearing a torn white shirt and black pants with bloodstains, overheard them. It looked like he had been in a terrible accident. He stepped forward and said in a rough voice, "Just 2 days ago, someone died in a car accident nearby. His spirit might still be around, making it easier to summon him." Yes, let's call him." They dimmed the lights, lit candles in the corners, and placed their fingers on the board. "If there's any spirit around, give us a sign. Give us a sign." As they were calling the spirit, suddenly the curtains started shaking, and a gust of wind blew out the candles, plunging the room into darkness. "How did the wind get in here?" Just then, the man who had told them about the spirit began laughing loudly and threw off his mask, placing it aside. "Kevin, you ruined the whole game. It was so much fun pretending to summon a spirit, and you ruined the vibe with your tricks." "What do you mean, Henry? So you were behind the moving curtains and blowing candles? How did you all like my prank?" Hearing this, everyone laughed loudly. Kevin stepped forward to turn on the light and got a strong shock. The candles went out again. "Alice, I didn't do any of this. Could there really be a spirit here?" "Kevin, I don't believe you anymore." Despite Kevin's protests, no one believed him, and they forgot to send the spirit back. The spirit stayed inside one of the masks. Later, everyone resumed dancing, wearing their masks. Chloe put on the mask that the spirit had entered. As soon as she put it on, she felt a sharp jolt, but she soon forgot about it and continued enjoying the party. The next day, when Alice was preparing lunch, her daughter came up wearing the same mask and started eating raw meat from the kitchen counter. Shocked, Alice watched her in disbelief, as her daughter, who usually disliked eating even cooked meat, was now devouring raw meat. When Alice tried to take the meat from her, Chloe's eyes turned red. She glared at her mother with wide eyes and shouted, "How dare you stop me? I love meat. Don't try to stop me again." Fearful, Alice backed away as her daughter continued to eat the raw meat from the floor. That evening, when Henry returned from work, Alice told him everything. He chuckled and said, "You know Chloe, she does what she wants. She must have overheard someone at the party saying raw meat is delicious, so she's trying it out. You're overreacting." But later that night, as Alice went to check on Chloe, she heard her screaming. Chloe was staring at her and laughing creepily. "Henry, you didn't believe me, did you? See for yourself, something's wrong with Chloe. I'll get a priest." Henry quickly brought a priest. As soon as the priest entered the house, he sensed Negativity. Something is wrong here. The priest, chanting mantras, advanced slowly. Chloe's face was covered with injuries, her head bleeding, and her limbs twisted as though she had suffered a severe accident. Suddenly, laughing hysterically, she started walking up the wall backward. The mask was floating around her. Alice didn't understand what was happening. The priest threw holy water on the mask and on Chloe. Her body returned to normal, but the mask seemed to laugh and say, "You can't stop me. They called me here and forgot to send me back." Holding a cross, the priest chanted prayers over Alice. The spirit shrieked and left. Holding the mask, the priest performed further prayers, and soon black smoke emerged from the mask. The spirit of Ethan Fernandez has left the mask. Henry and Alice, you're lucky that Ethan's spirit wasn't malevolent. If it had been, things could have turned worse. Don't play such games again. Are you thinking of inviting a spirit to make your Halloween party memorable? If you enjoyed this story, stay tuned for more. Halloween World is a very popular festival where people dress up in various spooky costumes and have a great time. Little kids also wear popular horror creature and monster makeup and costumes, going door to door to collect candies, which is why they are very excited about this festival. But on Halloween, it is also believed that spirits come to Earth on this day. 8-year-old Jake also had a similar experience that day. Jake had recently moved to a block in Texas with his mom and dad and was very excited about Halloween. Jake and his friends made a plan to meet at 6 p.m. to go door to door asking for lots of candies. Jake and his friends roamed around the neighborhood for a long time and collected plenty of candies, but Jake was a little sad because he hadn't found his favorite candy yet. Disheartened, Jake said goodbye to his friends and headed home alone when a woman in a pink sweater and jeans, about 50 years old, passed by. The woman had a bag in her hand, and inside it were several candies, including Jake's favorite candy. Jake began to follow the woman, crossing block after block for that candy. However, after crossing a few blocks, he reached a place that didn't seem to belong to the city anymore, because even on Halloween night, there was no one around. There was no decoration outside any houses, nor was there any person walking around. This surprised Jake because it was only 8 p.m., and children and adults usually wander outside late on Halloween night. As Jake looked around and then turned his gaze back to the woman, she was staring right at him. The woman motioned for Jake to come over. He thought she would give him his favorite candy, so Jake ran over to her. Jake and the woman stood in front of a house that looked like hers. Jake had never seen such a beautifully decorated haunted house. It looked like a real ruin. Outside the woman's house was a tree with a very creepy dummy hanging from it. Jake, who loved Halloween decorations, approached the woman to admire them. The woman gave Jake his favorite candy, and he was overjoyed. He immediately ate the candy. The woman told Jake she had many more candies inside her house. Enchanted by the candies, Jake followed her inside. While the woman went inside to fetch more candies, Jake sat in the hallway, waiting for her. From the hallway window, he could see the same tree with the creepy dummy hanging from it. Jake was so intrigued by the dummy that he thought, why not go see it up close? As he walked toward the tree in the garden, he felt like someone was watching him from afar. Looking around, Jake realized that someone was staring at him from behind the curtains of a house across the street. Jake, now right under the tree with the dummy, tried to focus on it, but when he looked closely, his hair stood on end. It wasn't a dummy at all. It was a corpse, the same woman who had just given him the candy, hanging from the tree. Jake broke out in a cold sweat, and just then, he heard a voice behind him. Turning around, he saw the woman again, holding Jake's favorite candy, calling him over. But now she looked terrifying. Her eyes and tongue were hanging out, and she had turned completely blue, just like the corpse hanging from the tree. She started laughing maniacally while beckoning him closer. Seeing her, Jake screamed and ran away from the house. As he fled, he began to feel dizzy and collapsed. When he regained consciousness, he found himself in an unfamiliar room. Looking around, he saw an elderly couple sitting nearby along with his parents. Jake didn't know the elderly couple, but he recognized the curtains. They were the same curtains behind which someone had been watching him just a short while ago. Jake had a high fever now, and the elderly couple told his parents something that shocked them. They revealed that Jake had encountered a woman who was actually the ghost of someone who had hanged herself on Halloween many years ago. Her corpse had been hanging there for days because everyone thought it was a Halloween decoration. It is said that since that day, her spirit has been wandering there, which is why fewer people live in that area now. On Halloween, no one dares to roam around due to the fear of that woman's spirit. Jake made a mistake that he would probably never forget for the rest of his life. This story is about a boy named Jake who wanted to surprise his friends by wearing a scary mask at a Halloween party in Seattle. But things didn't go as planned. Jake loved Halloween. It was a special day for him, and he wanted to celebrate it in a grand way. Every year, he saved up to buy the best mask, the best costume, and do the best decorations. This year was no different. Jake was getting ready to go to a Halloween party at his friend's house. He wore a black coat, black shoes, and a long cape that fluttered in the air. Then he put on his Halloween mask and was pleased with how he looked in the mirror. He had never seen such a scary mask before. He was sure that when he entered the party, all eyes would be on him, and everyone would be frightened by his mask. People would envy him. When Jake reached his friend's house in Austin, the party was already underway. He heard the soft sounds of music from the door. He rang the doorbell, and his friend Sarah welcomed him inside. Inside, he saw some people dancing, others drinking, laughing, chatting, and eating. Many were wearing scary masks of witches, ghosts, skulls, vampires, and zombies. But none of them were as scary as his. Jake was sure his mask was the most terrifying of all. He stood in a corner, waiting for someone to notice him and compliment his costume and mask. But no one paid attention to him, making him feel disappointed. He began moving around the room so people would get a good look at his mask. He wanted them to be scared and to start talking about him. After a while, a girl named Emily approached him and tried to strike up a conversation. "Hello, who are you?" she asked. Jake tried to respond, but he couldn't speak because his mask was too tight. Frustrated, he went to the kitchen to grab a drink. He tried to remove his mask, but it wouldn't come off. It felt like it was stuck tightly to his face. He pulled hard, but nothing changed. The mask wouldn't budge. Jake began to worry. Inside the room, he was feeling extremely hot and noticed he was sweating under the mask. Now he had to remove it no matter what. He picked up a knife from the kitchen and went to the bathroom, locking the door. He looked in the mirror and tried to cut the mask with the knife, but he ended up injuring himself slightly. It felt like the mask was firmly attached to his face. Desperately, he took the knife and started cutting the small rubber straps holding the mask in place. After a while, a crowd gathered outside the bathroom, and people started knocking on the door, shouting, "What's going on in there?" But Jake was terrified and kept trying to pull the remaining parts of the mask off, but it just wouldn't come off his face. He couldn't understand what was happening. Jake thought, what if this mask never comes off? What if it's stuck on my face forever? He started cutting the mask into small pieces with the knife again. Soon more people gathered outside the bathroom, knocking and asking, "What are you doing in there?" They finally heard Jake scream from inside, "This mask won't come off my face." The people outside looked at each other in shock. A girl standing outside the bathroom was stunned and said, "But he wasn't wearing a mask." What are your thoughts on this story? Let us know in the comment box. So I hope you guys like this horror story.